I've never met, no, rarely, like 1 out of 10 really wealthy people do I see their kids come out to be
It's a
really
great
well.
question.
How do you raise your
that's it.
kids
I see.
in a humble light?
So that's entitlement. So let me tell you a story on that one that saved my ass. And, you know, I've applied to my own family. When I was graduating college, my mother came to the graduation. She said, I've got great news. I'm coming to the graduation. But I also have some other news, no more checks. And I said, what do you mean? Because she'd been paying for college and my rent and everything. And she said, the dead bird under the nest never learns how to fly. I said, what the hell does that mean? She said, no more checks. I'm not writing any more checks. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. You know, I paid for your education. I paid for you from birth to the last day of college. We're done. And I thought, shit. I mean, because I really had no job or anything. And I had a tough couple of years. I mean, I couldn't even pay the rent. But it worked out and I got motivated. And, you know, obviously I'm pretty happy about the outcome. So when I had my first big liquidity event, when the learning company got sold, it got sold for about $4.2 billion. And there was 10 of us that were founders. So we woke up the next morning and said, shit, we're rich. Like, we didn't even think about it. We came back to work and kept going. But when I went over, that was in Cambridge, and I went over to Boston and saw the lawyers and said, look, I want to set up a trust that basically provides for my kids, because they were like 4 and 6 at the time. And it pays for everything for them until they finish college. And then they get nothing. And he said, what the hell is that? I said, well, it's a way that I can provide for them to set them up in life, but not entitle them. I was taking a cue from my mother's strategy, same idea. And I went home that day and I told my wife I was going to do this. And I sat down with my 2 kids and I said, here's how this trust works. And everything's good until, even if I get run over by a truck, you're good till you finish college. And they went, yeah, that's great, Dad. You know, didn't give a shit about it. They were 4 and 6. So
I can't believe you sat your 4 and 6-year-old.
But I had to disclose what I'd done. Years later, we're still in Boston, and my son is doing really poorly in high school. He is sucking and just not applying himself, and you know his marks are terrible. And the way to look at high school is it's just like a test to get into college. You got to pass a few things. And so one day he says to me, I'll never forget this conversation. Lynn and I were going out to a movie that night, and he says, hey, Dad, one of my friends was telling me about his trust fund. And what does my trust fund look like? And I said, well, I don't know about your friend's fund, but here's how yours works. If Mom and I get run over by a truck, you're good until you finish high school, because it doesn't look like you're going to college. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, the trust only pays till you finish college. Then it's done. He says, what do you mean it's done? I said, it means no more checks. And I said to him, the dead bird under the nest never learns how to fly. And he said, what the fuck does that mean? And I said, what it means is you should start thinking about taking advantage of this now, because you're not, and you're not, I don't know what's going to happen to you. You're not even going to finish high school here. And I think at that moment that the lesson of life, you know, given to me by my mother, he saw the abyss, he saw the darkness, he saw the situation he was in and went, shit, this is bad. And so he knuckled down and he started getting into in what he was into, and he eventually became an electrical engineer. And he was at the top of his class all through, you know, college and right into engineering. And in all these electrical engineering cohorts, they all build a combustion F1 race car and an electric one. And they race them all around the world against each other, because that's how they're learning. If they're interested in electrical engineering, you're building that F1 Formula car. And every year, MIT would win, and because they always built the best car. Well, in Trevor's case, he became the captain of the team, and he worked on the software that released the energy out of the battery in a different way, and he beat MIT. And so the Tesla guys came over and said, who are you guys? And he went to college in McGill. He said, we're the McGill team. And he said, you're all hired at Tesla, all of you, the whole team. Wow. That's where he works. That's where he lives, in San Francisco.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
That's the lesson of the dead bird right there.
Yeah. Applicable advice too. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Because you can take care of them in health issues, but if you guarantee them a free ride and they never have to take any risks, they won't.
Yeah.
And you'll destroy their lives. It's the worst curse you could do.
Yep.
Everybody knows people that have really screwed up rich kids. And they made that mistake. They just made it too easy for them. It's not going to happen in my family. And my trust goes, in multi-generations. When he has kids, even if they're not married, it takes care of them till right at the end of college.